And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Good afternoon. I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist John Cowen with your Alaska Public Forecast. Let's start off talking a little bit about fire weather. So we do have some dry fuels still across the northeastern quadrant of the state. Things really starting to dry out also across portions of the north slope there in the northern fringe of the Brooks Range. However, across south central, where we had seen some drier weather over the last few days, we got a good dose of rain today. So fuels looking pretty wet across this area. Taking a look at our satellite loop, you can see the low pressure center that's brought us a lot of that rain across south central. So most of the valley, pretty much everything south of the Alaska Range, getting a pretty decent dose of rain. A few showers across the interior as well with this system. However, we do have this large dome of high pressure sitting here over the Aleutians, so that's really going to keep things fairly dry across the southwestern portion of the mainland, most of the Aleutians themselves. Although we do have some waves of moisture moving across the northern fringe of that high pressure, so the west coast over the next couple of days is going to be dealing with some of this moisture moving in. However, the interior, we do expect high pressure to continue to strengthen across that area, across the panhandle as well. Things looking pretty nice over there, so starting to warm up this weekend for sure. Taking a look at our surface chart for tonight, you can see that low pressure really starting to dig in across the northern Gulf of Alaska, bringing moisture to a lot of the immediate coast. Most of this stuff farther interior is going to stay showery and then gradually diminish and move south along with this low pressure system over the next couple of days. And then farther out west, again, you can see our dome of high pressure really keeping things clear across the Aleutians, and then some showers trying to sneak over the northern fringe of that ridge of high pressure. Moving into Saturday, you can see that first wave really starts to make it onto the west coast, not making it too far inland since we do have some weak high pressure just kind of still hanging out here for Saturday. Low pressure over the Gulf of Alaska continuing to move south and really drawing in a lot of that moisture with it. So by Saturday afternoon, we should see quite a bit of clearing across south central Alaska. The interior really starting to heat up Saturday and especially Sunday. And then we do have some showers also starting to make their way onto the Alaska Panhandle with this occluded front that'll be moving into the area. For Sunday, the low continues to drop south and again bringing most of that moisture with it. Things really now starting to heat up across the interior. You can see we have a ridge starting to build in across the southern half of the mainland. The interior itself looking pretty clear and dry, and Sunday is going to be our warmest day for the weekend for sure. Temperatures pushing up near 80 for portions of the interior across south central. Temperatures getting into the 70s again, so getting pretty toasty out there. But across the west coast, our high pressure does slowly start to weaken just a little bit, enough for a good bit of moisture to make it across the northern Bering and onto the west coast. And now this low pressure in northwestern Alaska does start to push into the interior. So we will expect a cooling trend into early next week. You can see by Monday, the low pressure really starts to work its way across the north slope into the eastern Brooks Range and bringing some of those cooler temperatures and moisture with it. High pressure still hanging on across the southeastern Bering here, but enough moisture is getting through that we should see a decent cool down with temperatures coming down and some showers moving into the interior. Taking a look at our low temperatures for Saturday morning, you can see most temperatures either side of 50 degrees across most of the interior. 30s for the north slope, still looking at around 50 degrees for south central and mid 50s for much of the panhandle. Saturday afternoon, temperatures warming up into the mid 70s across much of the interior. It's mid 60s, looking at up to about 70 degrees for south central Alaska. Mid to upper 60s again for the panhandle. And then for Sunday morning, again, same story with the low temperatures, generally either side of 50 degrees for the interior. Still looking at mid 50s for much of the immediate coastline and the panhandle, but then Sunday afternoon, we really start to heat things up across much of the state, looking at upper 70s, even pushing 80 in quite a few locations across the interior. Even into south central, temperatures expected in the mid 70s, might even push 80 in a few areas farther inland. So really getting toasty, even 70s looking, or at the lower 70s for the northern panhandle and into the mid 60s for the southern panhandle, where we do expect a few showers to continue to impact the area from the low pressure in the Gulf. Taking a look at our 6 to 10 day outlook, you can see things staying pretty well above normal. That ridge of high pressure that we saw here over the Bering continues to push farther east and really reinforce the warmer temperatures across the western half of the state. Yesterday we did have a little bit of a cool down expected for the southern panhandle. That's now gone as we expect that ridge to continue to build farther east than was advertised previously. So generally warmer across most of the state. A little bit wetter than normal maybe for the panhandle with some showers from that low pressure system, but it doesn't take a whole lot of moisture this year to really start showing those above average numbers. So generally drier than what we would expect for most of western Alaska, which makes sense given the high pressure. But that'll wrap up our public forecast. I'm meteorologist John Cowen.